Biography of Abraham Lincoln. Chapter 1. Early Life. Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809, in a small log cabin in Hardin County, Kentucky. He came from a poor family and had a difficult childhood. His father, Thomas Lincoln, was a farmer, and his mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln, passed away when Abraham was only 9 years old. After her death, Abraham's father remarried, and his stepmother, Sarah Bush Lincoln, took care of him. Abraham was a very curious child and loved to read, although he had little formal schooling. Most of his education came from books he borrowed from neighbors and local libraries. Abraham's family moved several times, living in different places like Indiana and Illinois. Despite these challenges, Lincoln always had a strong desire to learn. He would walk for miles to borrow books and would often read by the light of the fire at night. His love for learning was so strong that even though he had very little time in school, he became well educated and learned to read, write, and do basic math by himself. His early years were marked by hardship, but his thirst for knowledge helped him overcome many obstacles. As a young man, Lincoln worked many different jobs. He was a farm worker, a shopkeeper, a rail splitter, and even a postmaster. These jobs helped him gain life experience and shaped his strong character. His early life taught him the value of hard work, honesty, and determination. Although Lincoln's family was poor, he never lost his desire to improve his life and help others. His early struggles laid the foundation for the person he would become. Chapter 2. Rise in Politics. In 1834, at the age of 25, Abraham Lincoln entered politics. He became a member of the Illinois state legislature as a member of the Whig Party. Lincoln was not just interested in making laws but also in making life better for people. He spoke out against issues like slavery and promoted the idea that the government should work for the people. Over time, Lincoln became known for his honesty, hard work, and his belief in equality and freedom. Lincoln's first major speech that gained attention was in 1837 when he spoke against the expansion of slavery into new territories. He argued that slavery was morally wrong and that it was harmful to the country. This speech marked the beginning of his strong anti-slavery views, which would shape his entire political career. Over the years, Lincoln became a leader in the fight against slavery and became known for his principled stance on freedom and equality. In 1846, Lincoln was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. During his time in Congress, he continued to speak out against slavery and supported policies that promoted economic growth and development in the country. Although he didn't stay in Congress for long, his time there helped him build a reputation as a thoughtful and determined politician. By the 1850s, Lincoln's reputation as a strong opponent of slavery continued to grow, and he became one of the most important figures in American politics. Chapter 3. The Lincoln-Douglas Debates. In 1858, Abraham Lincoln ran for a seat in the U.S. Senate against Stephen Abe Douglas, one of the leading politicians of the time. During their campaign, the two men engaged in a series of famous debates, which are now called the Lincoln-Douglas debates. These debates focused on the issue of slavery, which was dividing the country. Lincoln argued that slavery was morally wrong and should not be allowed to expand into new territories, while Douglas believed that each state should decide for itself whether to allow slavery. Although Lincoln lost the Senate race to Douglas, his debates made him famous. His ability to speak clearly and persuasively on the issue of slavery earned him national recognition. The debates showed that Lincoln was a powerful advocate for freedom and equality, and they helped him build support for his future political campaigns. Even though he did not win the Senate seat, Lincoln's arguments against slavery helped him gain followers and supporters all over the country. The Lincoln-Douglas debates were also important because they highlighted the growing tensions between the North and the South over the issue of slavery. The debates showed that the nation was divided, and the debate over slavery would only grow stronger in the years to come. Lincoln's opposition to slavery made him a key figure in the national conversation about freedom and human rights. Chapter 4. The election of 1860. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln ran for president as the candidate of the newly formed Republican Party. The country was deeply divided over the issue of slavery, with many southern states supporting slavery and many northern states opposing it. Lincoln's platform was based on stopping the expansion of slavery into new territories and promoting economic development, including building a transcontinental railroad and supporting high tariffs on imported goods. Lincoln's election was met with strong opposition from southern states, who feared that his presidency would lead to the end of slavery. In fact, shortly after Lincoln's election, several southern states decided to secede from the Union and form their own government. This led to the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861, a war between the northern states, the Union, and the southern states, the Confederacy. Lincoln's election marked the beginning of a difficult and challenging time for the United States. Despite the divisions, Lincoln was determined to preserve the Union and end slavery. He believed that the United States must remain united and that slavery was a great moral evil that needed to be abolished. Lincoln's strong leadership during the Civil War would shape the future of the country and help bring an end to slavery. Chapter 5. The Civil War. The American Civil War began in 1861. Just months after Abraham Lincoln became president. The war was fought between the northern states, which wanted to keep the Union together and abolish slavery, and the southern states, which wanted to maintain their independence and keep slavery. The war lasted 4 years and caused immense suffering for both sides, with hundreds of thousands of soldiers and civilians killed. Throughout the war, Lincoln showed extraordinary leadership. He made difficult decisions like the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared that all enslaved people in Confederate-held territory were free. This was a bold move that changed the course of the war and made the abolition of slavery a central goal of the Union. Lincoln believed that the Union must be preserved at all costs, even if it meant going to war. Although the war caused terrible suffering, it also led to major changes in the country. The Union Army, led by generals like Ulysses S. Grant, began to defeat the Confederate forces, and in 1865, the Confederacy finally surrendered. The Civil War ended with the defeat of the South, and slavery was abolished throughout the United States. Lincoln's leadership during the war ensured that the Union remained intact and that slavery was permanently ended. Chapter 6. The Emancipation Proclamation. One of Abraham Lincoln's most important achievements was the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1, 1863. This executive order declared that all slaves in Confederate-held territories were to be set free. The Emancipation Proclamation was a turning point in American history, as it made the abolition of slavery an official goal of the United States government. Although the Emancipation Proclamation did not immediately free all enslaved people, it changed the character of the Civil War. It gave the Union Army a new purpose: to fight not just to preserve the Union but to end slavery. It also allowed African American soldiers to join the Union Army, adding to the strength of the Northern forces. The Emancipation Proclamation is one of the most significant acts of Lincoln's presidency and helped pave the way for the 13th Amendment, which would abolish slavery throughout the country. Lincoln's decision to issue the Emancipation Proclamation was not an easy one. He faced opposition from many in the government and the public, and he had to balance the desire to win the war with the need to end slavery. However, Lincoln remained steadfast in his belief that slavery was wrong and that it needed to be abolished. His decision to issue the proclamation was a major step toward the realization of the nation's founding ideals of freedom and equality. Chapter 7: The Gettysburg Address. One of the most famous speeches in American history was delivered by Abraham Lincoln on November 19, 1863, at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. This speech, known as the Gettysburg Address, is remembered for its powerful message about the importance of liberty, equality, and national unity. In the speech, Lincoln spoke about the sacrifices made by soldiers who fought in the Battle of Gettysburg, one of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War. He also reminded the American people that the war was not just about preserving the Union, but about ensuring that all people, regardless of race, would have the freedom to live in a country where they could enjoy the same rights and opportunities. Lincoln's words resonated deeply with the American people and became a defining moment in the Civil War. The Gettysburg Address is considered one of the greatest speeches in American history because it eloquently expressed the nation's ideals of equality and freedom. It helped to redefine the purpose of the Civil War and to unite the American people in the fight for a better, more just nation. Chapter 8: The Second Term. In 1864, Abraham Lincoln was re-elected for a second term as president. Despite the ongoing Civil War, Lincoln remained focused on his goals of preserving the Union and ending slavery. He continued to make difficult decisions and worked toward rebuilding the country after the war. During his second term, Lincoln was also focused on bringing the Southern states back into the Union and helping them rebuild. One of the major achievements of Lincoln's second term was his support for the passage of the 13th Amendment, which permanently abolished slavery in the United States. Lincoln worked tirelessly to ensure that the amendment passed in Congress, and it was finally ratified on December 6, 1865, several months after his death. This was the culmination of years of work and struggle, and it marked the end of an era of slavery in the United States. Lincoln's second term was marked by his determination to heal the nation and create a more just and united country. He worked to reunite the North and South, and his vision for the future was one of freedom and equality for all people. Sadly, Lincoln would not live to see the full realization of his dreams. Chapter 9: Assassination. On the evening of April 14, 1865, just days after the end of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln was shot while attending a play at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. The assassin, John Wilkes Booth, was a Confederate sympathizer who opposed Lincoln's policies. Lincoln was severely wounded and died the following day, on April 15, 1865, at the age of 56. The news of Lincoln's assassination shocked the nation. He was mourned by people across the country, both in the North and the South. Lincoln had been the guiding force behind the Union's victory in the Civil War and the abolition of slavery, and his death was a devastating blow to the nation. His assassination marked the end of an era in American history, and it left the country struggling to rebuild and heal after the war. Although Lincoln's life was tragically cut short, his legacy lived on. His leadership during the Civil War, his commitment to ending slavery, and his vision for a united nation made him one of the most revered presidents in American history. Chapter 10: Legacy. Abraham Lincoln is remembered as one of the greatest presidents in American history. His leadership during the Civil War, his role in abolishing slavery, and his dedication to preserving the Union made him a hero to many. His speeches, like the Gettysburg Address, continue to inspire people around the world, reminding us of the values of equality, freedom, and justice. Lincoln's legacy also lives on in the continued fight for civil rights and equality in America. His commitment to ending slavery laid the groundwork for future movements for racial equality, and his vision of a united nation continues to shape American politics and society today. Abraham Lincoln's life and presidency are a testament to the power of leadership, integrity, and the pursuit of justice. His courage and determination in the face of tremendous challenges have made him a symbol of what is possible when one stands up for what is right.